Can't sleep when I lay in bed. Too much thinking in my head. I don't know what to do anymore. Well, come on now, tell me the score. Is there anything I can do to get out of these tragic blues? I'm a victim of circumstance. I never really had a chance. I lay down and stare at my feet. You know the world has got me beat.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. My name is Susan Gallagher and I'll be your host for today's show. Our subject today is we'll be talking about bullying. Youth bullying is particularly among the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender communities here in Sacramento and really throughout the nation. This has become such a prevalent problem, and we really want to explore how we can improve the mental health of all of our youth, but particularly how this issue affects the LGBTQ population. With us today is an expert on the subject, Dr. Katie Polsky. Katie has a PhD and she's a licensed clinical psychologist, and she's done a lot of work on college campuses, high schools, with LGBT youth, and particularly around the issue of bullying. So thank you so much for being here today with us, Katie. We also have with us today Justin, and Justin is a student. He's currently getting his master's degree, and he also has worked for 3 years as an officer for the UC Davis Asian Pacific Islander Queers Group, APIQ, at UC Davis. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Justin. And our other guest today is John Wells. John is 18 years old, and he has become a community activist, and he's very involved in the gay community as a gay youth spokesperson for Equality Action Now. And Equality Action Now is a grassroots and all-volunteer civil rights organization that's based here in Sacramento. He's also studying psychology at Sac City. Thank you so much for being here, all of you.
Thank you for having us.
For your willingness to come on and talk about this really, really important issue. I know that it's almost become a little bit of a buzzword these days about bullying, but I think that we really haven't talked candidly about how these issues really affect the gay community, and particularly youth in general. And so I'm just really pleased that you folks have been willing to come on and talk about this for us today. I was hoping, Katie, that maybe you could kind of give us some statistics and an overview kind of the issue.
Okay.
Can you start us off?
Well, again, thank you so much for having me on today. And I agree, this is such an important topic that we're facing not only as a local Sacramento community, but we're facing as a nation as a whole. Gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, questioning youth definitely have some challenges. And I think with Prop 8 and Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it's really come more to the forefront of the community. And bullying is very commonplace. I mean, is so commonplace. And I don't think people realize how much damage it does on young people and young college students, etc. Bullying can affect young people who are susceptible to depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, so many mental health issues, but more and most dramatically and importantly, suicide. And so let me just throw out some numbers for you, like you asked. 4 times as many GLBTQ youth attempt suicide relative to their heterosexual counterparts. That's a huge number. Wow. In terms of bullying and harassment in school, 86% of LGBTQ youth report having experienced some sort of harassment, verbal or sexual harassment in school. 60% report feeling unsafe in their schools. These are remarkable numbers, which no one should have to experience. I mean, school is supposed to be a place, of course, you know, it's a hard time for everybody. It's not always the most pleasant, but
it should be safe.
But it should be safe. And these are the issues that we're facing, again, as a community and as a nation. And I think it's so important that we really shed some light on the topic and do something about it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why we helped write and pass with some of our allies, the Gay Straight Alliance and Equality California, the SB 543 legislation to really allow youth to access mental health services without parental consent if needed. And it really ended up being something that was really relevant to the LGBTQ youth. I've had a lot of feedback from folks that probably would have sought services if they felt more able to do that.
That's
and
great.
So improving, those statistics will be a big challenge, but I think we need to do that for the mental health of our children and youth, and it's so critical. So if you don't mind, I wanted to talk to our two youth a little bit about your personal experiences being bullied, and I know that it may be a very sensitive subject, so I appreciate your courage and your bravery to come today and talk to us about that. But I'm wondering, John, if maybe you can tell us a little bit about what kind of bullying you faced, or maybe still face.
Well, I guess high school's always been kind of difficult for me. My parents put me in a Catholic high school, Christian Brothers High School. I guess I've ever heard of it. But it was really difficult to fit in with my friends once I started coming out to them and telling them about my sexual orientation. And it was a period of exploring for me. So I wasn't even sure about myself yet, and to have the ridicule and the lack of support from the people that I hung out with every day kind of just, it put me in a really unsafe mental place. And there were times where I would self-injure or where I considered committing suicide. But one thing that kept me against doing all of that was groups like Equality Action Now, or groups that just offered hope to me, that were like, one day I will work for one of those people and no one will tease me because all my coworkers will be great, or just hope that I can move on to something greater once I was older. Right. That was my main thing.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks tell me that and I hear that from older folks that have experienced it and have come through that things will get better. And I think that's really true, but for the youth that are going through it at the time, it probably doesn't feel like a whole lot of hope. And so I hope some of the goal of today's show will be to give hope to those kids that may be out there experiencing some of these same issues, and really let them know that there are places you can turn to, like Equality Now, and in the Gay Lesbian Center in Sacramento, and some of these other resources that they may not be aware of, where they will find affirmation and acceptance and things like that, which I think are so critically important, particularly after experiences like that. Justin, can you share a little bit about maybe any of your experiences?
Yeah, so for anyone who's familiar, I grew up in Sacramento in the Del Paso Heights area, and I went to kind of like the Grant High School system. Wow. And people that are native to the area know that's not somewhere to be queer, that's not somewhere to be gay. Yeah. It's not a very friendly environment for that.
Big sports school too, yes. Football.
The area itself is really known for a lot of I guess per se ghetto. There's a lot of crime, gang violence, things like that. Of course, that's not somewhere safe in general. So even more so, it's unsafe for LGBTQ youth. Being there, I grew up always missing class, skipping classes, mainly because I had to deal with harassment.
So I had to deal with.
I wanted to avoid being at school almost in general. And a lot of teachers and peers kind of contributed that to me just being lazy or being irresponsible. But in reality, I had every intention to go to school to keep my education, but I had to avoid getting either verbally harassed, almost physically harassed several times, just walking down halls, having people yell slurs at you, not only for my ethnic background, but my sexual background as well. So it's just kind of rampant on campus, and it's something I wanted to be away from.
So in a way, it was self-protection for you to try to stay away, because it sounds like you're very intelligent, you're getting your master's degree, you've succeeded in college really well, you've got your bachelor's.
It was a very just kind of instinctual, like self-protection method, just stay away from it. But I did suffer in terms of academics, social life. I did become very suicidal. I did self-harm and self-injury, and just things like that. Kind of the pressure of the bullying and the harassment, along with the downfall of my academics and everything else that comes with it.
Right.
I had to avoid it all, and I tried my best to kind of escape it, but still be there at the same time.
So for those who may be watching and experiencing this, what helped you? How'd you get through it?
So the most supportive person to me would be my mother, and that's just by chance that she grew up in a community, learning, to be accepting of different communities, different people. And
she grew up
kind
in
of
San
passed
Francisco,
that
right?
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She grew up in San Francisco, and she passed that on to me growing up, to be accepting of differences. There's nothing wrong with anyone just because of their sexual orientation, sexual preferences. And that kind of gave me the courage to come out and have her as a main support for me. Just being there all the time and telling me that it's okay, that there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And aside from her, my best friend that stuck with me even up till now. She's a very awesome friend, and she's been there for me the whole time. And even when people would say things to me or pick on me, she would speak up for me and just kind of defend me and be there for me.
So really having just like a couple of key people in your life that accepted you and loved you was a big source of strength, it sounds like. And how about you, John?
Well, my story was a little bit different. My parents weren't all right with having a gay son, and they tried to deny it, and they tried to change me almost, and they tried to get me involved in the sports and in classic guy activities, and I was really big on theater, and I was really into like expressionistic things, and it really bothered them. And there were times where I'd have to lie about going to sports practice to go to theater rehearsal, and sometimes I'd get caught, and plays would be damaged, and like it was a lot. It probably was really beneficial to you to have your mother as a support network, and I really wish I would have. And when I was at Christian Brothers, I ended up having no friends by the end of my freshman year, and I couldn't deal with it, and so I got myself kicked out, and I went to a public high school, and I was instantly like a hit. Like, so many people liked me there.
Really?
I made so many friends, but again, once I was able to tell them that I was gay, the large masses generally like dropped off, except for at a public high school. I made a few good friends, and I joined their GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, at the time, and it was led by a couple of seniors who were really cool that ended up becoming best friends of mine, who I still see and I plan to hang out with tonight actually after the program. But I guess sort of when I joined the GSA at my high school, it gave me an outlet. It gave me a network of people that really cared, and like involving the cabinet of people and the other group members. It was just I could talk about anything that I was experiencing. Like I remember once when I took the GSA over, actually my junior year in high school, I went to a rally, and it was a really like high tension rally because there were sports teams battling against each other and stuff, and somebody got really upset with me a couple rows behind me that I was cheering for the team that I wanted to cheer for, and that I sounded like a girl when I was doing it, and they punched me in the face during the rally. And
For that?
Yeah, it was so bad.
Wow.
And I'm not a very violent person, and so I didn't respond with violence. I started crying, and I got up and I left, and I went to the principal's office. And if you don't handle it violently, they're going to go down. Like, their life will be miserable. So don't ever resort to violence if you get hit. You can really...
So it was effective.
Administrative action really does take care of bullies and stuff, especially with the passage of some of the bills that we've had and school code adjustments.
Exactly. And I think the schools are really starting to take it much more seriously.
Right.
I think that Sac City, actually, you're probably fairly lucky to be at Sac City, because I think they've been one of the more progressive.
Very gender neutral.
Yeah, they really are. They've been very progressive. They've worked with us on our collaborative, our LGBT youth collaborative, and I think it's a pretty supportive environment as these things go. No
when I'm in class at Sac City and I talk about LGBTQ topics, it's encouraged and it's listened to by all my classmates, whereas some kids in high school might have the feeling that they're silenced in class like I did, and it does literally get better. You will be listened to, and people value your opinion so greatly because you have a different upbringing and a different environment and different memories and different experiences. It's a great thing to have.
Yeah. Great. Thank you both for sharing.